Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Mermaid Mystic channel. Today we're doing more tarot. We've got some runes, and our focus is shadow work. So this is a term that is thrown around lots. We may or may not know what it means. We might have kind of like a gist. There's different takes on it. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about shadow work in the way that I was taught by my teachers, and then a nice, simple, but powerful way to incorporate tarot into your shadow work practice. So if you're ready, we'll just dive in. If you want to pause the video to grab your cards, grab pen and paper, cup of tea. If you want to make sacred space, because I'll also be doing a reading for the collective, go ahead, do that now. Otherwise, we're just going to dive right in. So first off, what is shadow work? I'm going to go by the way I was taught. My teachers really based it on Carl Jung, on his take on shadow work. So basically the shadow side just refers to what we are not conscious of, aspects of ourselves. So it's whatever we've repressed. So often we have a tendency to assume that this is bad. So maybe like wounds, pain, how we've been hurt, but that is definitely way too narrow of a vision of the shadow. The shadow is that which we have repressed and we are not conscious of. So that absolutely can be wounds that we're not ready to deal with or we didn't know how to deal with, and so we push them down. But it can also be traits that we have or habits that we have that are not very flattering. Whatever you see out in humanity is within each of us to varying degrees, right? And so that also includes the gifts though. And that's another really important part of shadow work that I find is not often discussed. It's really important to discover the gifts, our gifts and our dreams and our most authentic self that also has a tendency to get pushed into the shadow that we are not conscious of. And there are going to be many reasons for this, right? Like maybe if you're a creative person, you were raised in a place that valued just things that obviously made money. And so you started to undervalue your gifts and your dreams because there's this link like, oh, well, it won't make money, so it doesn't matter. And if you're a creative person, a spiritual person, kind of grown up in a capitalist world, there is a lot of undervaluing that can happen. And it doesn't mean that it was like people were like, that's stupid, but it's the way that we translate the messages that are out in the collective or things that our parents said or didn't say. There can be so many reasons. Or perhaps you did share your light as a kid and you were made fun of or you were shamed. There's just, so many reasons, and our gifts are often like quite vulnerable. So they do make us strong once we forge them, but bringing them out when we share our most authentic selves, that is when we feel quite vulnerable. So that's why we really want to explore the gifts and the dreams when we are exploring shadow work, when we're exploring what we have repressed, what we are no longer conscious of. And this is a great reminder that like the path to self-discovery is indeed a journey. Like we are not fully aware of all the parts of ourselves. So we can be mindful not to turn this into like a never ending healing journey where you feel like you always have to fix yourself, but more just like seeing yourself as someone who's going to continue to grow and evolve, and you're going to discover yourself, which I think is actually really something to look forward to instead of feeling like stagnancy, instead of feeling like you get older, you get that job, and then you just stop. You know what I mean? We don't. We keep evolving. There's more to discover about ourselves. So I find this is a way to, life's a bit more of an adventure as it should be when we can embrace the shadow. Okay, my friends. So here's a really easy tarot reading that you can do to discover two important aspects of the shadow. So one, some of the less flattering things or the wounds that are holding you back. But then two, what are the gifts and the authentic expression of yourself that also wants to come forward? And I find this is a very nice way to work with this because sometimes it's just too much of one or the other doesn't give you a whole complete picture. Like if we only ever focus on like the things that hurt us or the things we're not doing well or the things we have to fix, this can become very heavy and it's not a very good fuel. We can feel a lot of shame, guilt. Like the healing can kind of turn into like self-loathing, which is not what we want. Whereas when we incorporate the gifts, then there's also a little bit of like spice, but something nice. There's something to really look forward to, something that we can be very excited about. But of course, if we only focus on the nice stuff, right, we can see how we just need both for a complete picture. And I find too, one of the benefits of shadow work is like, I feel like when you really dive into it, you get a lot more peaceful. And I think it's because you see the things in yourself, excuse me, that are like, maybe not so hot, But then you are like, okay, but so like everyone has those, and you kind of stop expecting yourself or others to be perfect. And what's that great quote? It's like, now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be great. Right. And so I find it like awakens a lot of like compassion for the human experience, for ourselves and for others. And I find usually when we're not like expecting ourselves or others to be so terrible, the world becomes just a nicer place. Okay, so here we go. So just 2 cards. This is an easy peasy shadow work reading. You will pull 1 card, and I'll flip it over when I do the collective reading, to see like what's holding you back in the shadow. So like what are some beliefs that aren't like authentic, or some wounds that need to be seen that are holding you back. That's it. So 1 card for the like tough medicine, I suppose, the tough love of the things in the shadow that are holding you back. Then the second card will be, and what gifts and what of my authentic self wants to come forward. Obviously, you can create longer spreads and you can dive into this more, but like don't underestimate how much like you can get from 2 cards. Each card is like packed with nuance and meanings, and sometimes like really big card spreads become kind of muddled, and then it's just so much to process. Sometimes they're great. This isn't like one's good, one's bad. There's just like different times we'll need them. But for all my friends who sometimes feel pressure to do like Celtic Cross or to do really big spreads, the whole point of tarot is like self-discovery. And if you're sharing with others, to be of service. So if 2 cards helps you to do this, you're doing it. The whole point is to be of service to yourself and others, if you choose to share it with others. So we're just going to use whatever tools we have in ways that promote that. Okay, so just 1 card, what's holding me back? What's the tough love? And the next card, what are my gifts, my true self that wants to come forward? Now I've actually done this, so I'm going to do a reading for the collective right now to demonstrate how you would translate these messages. And because this is for the collective, it's going to resonate more with some than others. It's totally normal, so just take what resonates. And really quick before I do the reading, shadow work, it's once you are aware of it, it's no longer in the shadow. Right? Because it's what we are unconscious of. Once you are conscious of it, it actually has less power over you. That's why the devil card in the tarot is such a powerful card for shadow work, because the devil is like ruling you, right? Like if you look at the imagery in the Smith Rider-Waite, there's the figure of the devil, and then there's the 2 little like Adam Eve figures that we also see in the Lovers. And they're chained, right? When we're not aware of the shadow, it is like chains that hold us back. And it's also like puppet strings that kind of move us. It stops us from doing things that might be good for us, or it stops us for taking some risks, or it makes us view the world in a way that's like very muddled by the shadow. So once you view it, it is no longer in the shadow. Once you are conscious of it, then you're going to decide what to do with those things moving forward. But once you see it, it loses its grip on you. So just the awareness alone is enough to start like the process of liberation from what has been controlling you or holding you back. So that's something else that I super loved. It's not really complicated, you know? Okay, so let's explore this. So for those watching this video, what in the shadow is holding you back? So we get this, the 10 of Bones, which in traditional tarot would be the 10 of Pentacles. By the way, I'm using this very cool Canadian tarot deck. This Jessup's Magical Tarot deck. I love it. You're going to see the other cards. It's so cool. So in the shadow, we've got the 10 of Bones. Something else I really like about this deck is it has a few keywords on the card to help you understand. And I think the keywords are really great. I think this person did a great job. So here, the 10 of Bones. So it says good fortune, property, abundance, fulfillment, inheritance. So we'll talk about that. I've incorporated a rune for any of my friends who also love the runes. So in the shadow, we have this rune, Hagalaz. So let's translate. So tarot translation time. So the 10 of Bones, 10 of Pentacles. This is usually the place where like, I did it. You have the nice house. You've got like fat savings. Maybe you love your job or you've retired. You have a yard. You have like whatever material things you feel like you have enough and then some. And then there's also the sense that like those around you have enough as well. Now, this is a great example of what we would call like a good card in a not good placement. I always preach this. Let's just remove the words good or bad from the readings and you will gain way more information. So each card has challenges and gifts, right? Just like all of us, just like life. So in the 10 of Pentacles, you're like, well, that sounds really good. Like, I love the idea of like abundance and stability. What about that could be in the shadow? Well, If this is in the shadow and it's holding you back, then it's your relationship with this. So we would want to explore the relationship with feeling like you have to have all of this material abundance in order to feel peace. Or maybe because this can be associated with family and ancestors, your relationship with money, influenced by your family, is impacting you in a way that's holding you back. So if you feel like you can't be happy, this is very common in our society. Like, I'll be happy when, right? I'll be happy once I finish school. I'll be happy once I get that job. Well, I'll be happy once I buy that car. I'll be happy once I buy the promotion. I'll be happy once I buy the house. I'll be happy once I've renovated the house. I'll be happy. I'll be beep, 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 beep. Right? We do that. And we're kind of like perpetually hungry and undernourished because of that, like, it's never enough mentality. So that would be something I would explore. Is there a relationship with money that's holding you back, or feeling like you're never where you want to be, or there's always like a shinier future that is taking you away from the present moment? Adding Hagalaz to the mix. Hagalaz is a rune of chaos and disruption. It's the rune of the hailstorm. So when you read in the Anglo-Saxon rune poem, which is where we get the kind of meanings and names of the runes from the Elder Futhark, Hagalaz is a hailstorm. It's like a force of nature that comes in, but then it melts into water. So Hagalaz is this like necessary chaos that we want to be mindful of, because a hailstorm could be very damaging. But it's how sometimes these things outside of our control, or the chaos, can actually nourish us. Like, how can we find the ways to turn that into water, which nourishes and gives life? So, but it's in the shadow once again. So we would want to explore energies of chaos related to career, home, and finances, and the goals and dreams we have towards them. So this could be one, perhaps finances in your world are really chaotic. And that's really normal, because a lot of us aren't really taught a lot about money, like the practical things, but also the emotional things. How money, like how we spend it, how we make it, is so deeply associated with like our sense of self-worth or lack of self-worth, right? What we believe is possible for us. If we believe in ourselves. So whether we cling too tightly to it and it's just never enough, or it just like goes through our fingers because we don't know how to navigate our emotions and choices with money, that would be something I would explore if we see chaotic energy with the 10 of Pentacles. Now you might be asking, how will I know for a client? Because I'm giving you a few options. Well, I'm giving multiple options for you right now because this is a reading for the collective. So this could be manifesting in a number of ways. If you were reading this for yourself or for a client, you'd be really tapping into your intuition to see how these cards feel for whoever you're reading for. So if it's for you, you would explore, is this okay? So chaos and like financial goals, dreams, career. You'd have an idea, right? Where am I uncomfortable? Where is this discomfort? Where are things not flowing? If you're reading for a friend or client, once again, you would feel your intuition, and it would kind of give you an inclination as to whether this was someone's holding too tight and because they're just afraid of the rug being pulled out from under them, or if they are chaotic with their finances. Your intuition would fine tune that for you. Okay. So that's the shadow that's holding us back right now. So that means that like how we're making money, if we're making money, how we're spending money, how we're saving money, choices we make pertaining to our homes, our careers, our savings, etc. That is something that, and then like the energy of chaos, whether the fear of chaos or the actual presence of chaotic energy, that's in the shadow. Now it's not, because now you're aware of it. So we can explore, how is this kind of holding me back? That takes a lot of humility and a lot of honesty, right? Like humility just means down to earth. So it's not about being like, I'm so bad, but it is being like, okay, yeah, where you can just be a little honest with yourself. But from there, so much is possible, because once we're just honest and we love ourselves, we can just make changes that are better for ourselves. That's again, shadow. You're like, everyone deals with this. No one's perfect. So we can just like let off the pressure and just be honest, and then make those changes that are going to be so good for us and so good for the world. Okay. So now we're going to talk about your gifts. So what are your gifts that want to shine through? And this is so cool. So you get the sun. Ah. So right off the hop, the 10 of Pentacles is minor arcana, and the sun is major arcana. So this would suggest that this is the more important aspect of the reading. So whenever there's major and minor arcana, our eyeballs are really going to zoom in on the major arcana, because that's going to be like the heart of the reading, like the most important themes. So in this case, as much as this is something we want to be aware of, the 10 of Pentacles and Hagalaz in the shadow, it is your gifts. This might be the answer to the challenges in the shadow. The major arcana is the most important part. So that means the most important part of this reading are your gifts and authenticity that want to shine through. So here we go. We have the sun, and the awesome keywords here from this wonderful deck is our happiness, success, and clarity. I will expand. So the sun as the major arcana is at this interesting place in the journey of the major arcana. So we've gone through all the really tough, sticky cards if you view the major arcana as a story. And I like to. I find it helpful. And so this card comes after like you've done the shadow work in the devil and you've had like some major wake up calls in the tower and you've spent some time with like discomfort to discover illusions in the moon. So by the time the sun rolls around, you've done the sticky hard stuff to get to this place of like total authenticity. That's why in the Smith Rider Waite deck, you see a kid sitting on a horse. Like the kid is that true self that hasn't yet been shaped by the world. So this is your really authentic self who you've always been. We've moved through the habits, the shadows, the illusions that have held us back from our truth. And now it's our truth. So it's kind of funny. I'm like, your true self, the card that shows up is just truth. But the sun also, besides being like authentic, our true selves are shining through. It's no longer muddled by things of the past. That there's also the other energies of like vitality. Like the sun usually indicates like having a lot of energy, and it's also abundance. So it's interesting that there are money issues in the shadow, but the true self knows the path to abundance that's in your highest good and the highest good of all. And it's also creativity. The sun is like a very creative energy. So this tells us that your true self actually has a lot more happiness or joy or lightness, like that sense of lightness, sense of levity, than you might realize. This is definitely a card for creative people. And remember, creativity can be found in any field. We can be very creative with like scientific discoveries. We can be creative with art. So there is the energy of creativity. So you are someone watching this who has the power to create. And that's like a human thing, right? Like we are creators. And so it's very empowered then. You have the ability to create whatever this is. And then, yeah, definitely like your true self is just like this light that warms the world and shines through. So you're aware of this now. So you want to tap into the areas of joy, creativity, and having good levels of energy as your true self. What's really cool is the rune I pulled to go with this is Kanaz, which is the rune of the torch. It's the rune of fire. So it's this rune, but fire as a torch is like more contained, right? So I like to think about Kanaz as like if the room is dark and you light the torch, now there's clarity. And at the time of the runes, like torches meant we could do things into the night. So this could be like being creative. So for whoever's watching this, there's like a tremendous amount of creativity that are your gifts and your true self that want to shine through with a lot of joy and confidence. Ooh, that sounds so good. Okay, my friends. So one last little tarot tutorial tip before we wrap this up. And the shadow card. So the shadow card is the one that's at the bottom of the deck after you have finished pulling the cards for your reading. So I pulled the cards from the top. We are now going to look at the card on the bottom, and the shadow deck is an energy influencing this whole situation. So the shadow card here is a 2 of candles, which in traditional tarot would be the 2 of wands. And the keywords here, once again, so good. We have taking action, choices, developing goals, and future planning. So the 2 of wands is where we are taking some bold, calculated choices to move out of our comfort zone. So if you're watching this here, you might be doing things for money or stability that are not in alignment with your true self because of fear of like what could happen with Hoggalos. But your true self is like, oh no, you definitely could make abundance and be very happy. Like you don't have to choose. You can be fulfilled and you can make money. But the path there will require the 2 of wands energy. So it requires taking a few risks. It requires being brave. It requires doing hard things, right? And the 2 of wands, we're not making the easy choice. It's not the Fool where you're just taking like a leap of faith and you're just like, wee, like, let's just see. The 2 of wands is calculated, but it's calculated risks and it's bold moves. So if you're watching this, something to explore at this time would be what kind of calculated bold moves that are still like strategic, they're not like the Fool, just willy-nilly, could move you in the direction of whatever the sun is for you. So if that's creativity, the sun is being seen. So this could be like performance, That could be anything. That could be music. That could be acting. That could be wanting to be a speaker, right? Or just what makes you so happy. So this would suggest at this time, this does feel like a reading to do with finances and career and starting to make choices where you're doing more of what you really love, being very creative and true to yourself, but then also making some good money. That doesn't mean that you have to monetize all of your hobbies. Sorry, my laptop went quiet. That doesn't mean you have to monetize all of your hobbies. It could mean different things for different people. But the point is, with the Two of Wands, we want to start making those brave moves that move us more towards our true self and our creativity. Okay, my friends, so you don't have to include the shadow card. Totally up to you, reader's choice. But that is it. So basically the idea here is, oh my God, excuse me. I've been talking so much. I'm going to wrap this up. Card for what's holding you back. Card for your gifts. Bring it forward. Okay, my friends, thank you for being here. I hope your shadow work is empowering and liberating. And again, just thank you for being here. Take care.